Hey everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to be exploring this really fascinating book called Braiding, Sweetgrass by Wall Kimmerer.
Oh, yeah. I love that book.
It just offers this really unique perspective on our relationship with the natural world. You know what I mean? Like
And
how we connect with nature.
yeah, totally.
And Kimmerer, she's a botanist.
Hmm.
And she's a member of the citizen Potawatomi Nation.
Right.
So she brings this really cool blend of indigenous knowledge and scientific perspectives.
Yeah, she does such a good job of weaving those together.
It's not like they're separate or conflicting.
Yeah.
She brings them together in this really beautiful way.
It's really cool how she shows how they actually enrich and inform each other.
Okay, so one of the things that really struck me right at the beginning of the book was the story of Sky Woman
Oh, yeah.
falling from the sky world.
That's the creation story, right?
Yeah, it's the creation story in Anishinaabe tradition. So what stood out to you about this particular creation story?
Well, the thing about the Sky Woman's story is that it's not just a myth or something.
Yeah.
It actually lays the foundation for understanding this core principle of indigenous ecological thought, which is reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
Yeah, Sky Woman, she brings seeds and plants.
From the sky world.
Yeah, from the sky world to the earth, right?
Uh-huh.
And she nurtures the earth,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of emphasizes this idea that, we as humans,
Yeah.
we receive all these gifts from nature,
Mm-hmm.
and then in return, we have this responsibility to care for it and give back.
Right. It's not just about taking.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about acknowledging this beautiful exchange.
That's a really great way to put it.
We're in a relationship with the natural world.
Totally.
And then she goes on to talk about the pecan trees.
Oh, yeah, the pecan trees.
And she uses them as this example of
Abundance.
Yes, abundance,
Mm-hmm.
especially during mast years when they produce tons and tons of nuts.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that abundance kind of challenges
Why?
that whole Darwinian view of evolution.
Oh, survival of the fittest, competition.
Yeah, it's all about competition and struggle.
Right.
But the pecan trees are no, we're going to produce way more than we need.
Yeah.
And it benefits not just the pecan trees themselves, but the whole ecosystem.
Right. Everybody gets to share.
The squirrels, the birds, the humans.
Even me. I've noticed that with the apple trees in my yard.
Oh, yeah.
Some years it's a few apples, and other years I'm swimming in apples.
That's so cool.
It's this natural cycle of giving.
Yeah, and it really makes you think about a different model for how nature can work.
Mm.
A model of cooperation and shared abundance.
It's like a gift economy.
Yes, exactly. The gift economy.
Where value isn't determined by...
Yeah. You're market exchange.
Right. It's about relationships.
Yeah.
It's about generosity, reciprocity.
Exactly. And she tells that really beautiful story about gathering wild strawberries with her father.
Oh, yeah, for the strawberry shortcake.
For the strawberry shortcake.
And those berries, they weren't just ingredients.
Right.
They represented this, connection to the land, a shared experience, a gift.
And that story just perfectly captures that whole essence of the gift economy.
Yeah, the value of those strawberries wasn't measured in dollars, but in the love and connection they represented.
It's a really powerful contrast to her experience of buying commercially grown strawberries.
Later on.
Yeah.
Which were bigger, maybe?
Right.
But they lacked that special something.
They didn't have that same feeling,
You have that feeling of connection. It makes you think about what are you actually consuming when you buy something?
Nice.
You know?
What's the deeper meaning behind the things we buy?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And speaking of different ways of thinking, Kimmerer had this really cool experience learning the Potawatomi language.
Yeah, she talks about having this aha moment that changed how she saw nature.
Yeah, it's amazing how language can actually shape our perception of the world.
Totally.
In the Potawatomi, it's a verb-based language.
Okay.
So instead of saying the bay, you would say to be a bay.
Wow.
And that subtle shift in grammar,
Yeah.
it actually emphasizes the aliveness of everything in nature.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Right.
In English, we tend to see everything as a static noun.
Yeah, it's all nouns.
But in Potawatomi, it's everything is dynamic.
It's a constant state of being.
Active, constantly in a state of being.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And that connects back to the Sky Woman story and the idea of reciprocity.
Okay.
We become indigenous to a place by learning to speak its language, understanding the relationships that make up that ecosystem.
That makes sense.
And by participating in that cycle of giving and receiving.
It's like learning the grammar of animacy.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just knowing the names of things. It's
Right.
about understanding The deep interconnections and then acting accordingly.
Yeah, and speaking of interconnections,
Okay.
let's talk about the Three Sisters Garden.
Oh, yeah.
With that?
I love the Three Sisters garden.
Oh, good.
Corn, beans, and squash.
Yeah, it's like the perfect example
The
of...
symbiosis.
Yeah, they all support each other.
That's like a family.
Like a little family.
The corn stalks provide a structure for the beans to climb.
Uh-huh.
The beans fix nitrogen in the soil.
Making it richer.
Yeah, enriching it for all three plants.
And the squash leaves, they shade the ground.
They help retain moisture, suppress weeds.
It's like this beautiful system.
It's so elegant.
Working in perfect balance.
Yeah.
And Kimmerer talks about how she used this garden to teach her students.
About
the interconnectedness of nature.
Oh, that's cool.
But initially they were so focused on
what?
analyzing each plant individually.
Like in isolation. Yeah. And they miss the bigger picture.
It's easy to fall into that trap, especially in Western science.
Yeah, where we dissect and analyze things in isolation.
But nature doesn't really work that way.
Right, it's all connected.
And then she had them trace a squash vine.
Oh, I love that part.
From its origin to the fruit.
And suddenly they could see the web of connections.
Yeah, the flow of energy and nutrients between the plants.
And it's like a metaphor for how everything in nature is linked.
It highlights that delicate balance of an ecosystem and how human actions can either enhance or disrupt that balance.
Yeah, we're not separate from nature. We're part of this delicate web.
Exactly.
She even calls it like a blueprint for the world.
Oh, wow.
A map of balance and harmony.
I love that.
So beautiful.
So when we think about applying these ideas to our modern lives, one concept that comes up is the honorable harvest.
Yes, the honorable harvest. I love this idea.
It's basically like a set of guidelines for how we should approach taking from the earth.
Like ethical and sustainable harvesting.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not just about sustainability then.
No, it's also about respect.
Yes.
And gratitude.
Yes. It's about asking permission.
Oh, wow.
Taking only what you need, using everything you take, and giving thanks for the gifts you receive.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And it's about making sure that our actions don't harm the well-being of future generations.
I love that.
It's like thinking about the seventh generation.
Right.
And Kimmerer shares some beautiful examples of how she practices the honorable harvest in her own life.
Like when she asks permission from the sweetgrass before harvesting it for basket making.
And what's fascinating is that her research actually shows that this traditional practice of taking only half the sweetgrass leads to more vigorous growth.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, it's amazing.
So taking less actually leads to more abundance in the long run.
It seems counterintuitive, but it's true.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder how much wisdom we've overlooked.
I know, right? In our rush toward progress and modern ways of doing things.
It just underscores the value of these traditional knowledge systems that have been developed over generations.
Yeah, of close observation and interaction with the natural world.
So how do you see these principles of the honorable harvest applying to our lives today?
Especially in a world where so many of us are disconnected from the sources of our food and our goods.
That's a great question.
Like I live in a city and I go to the grocery store and I don't even think about where my food comes from.
It's easy to forget, right?
Yeah. And Kimmerer actually uses this really powerful contrast
between
her experience gathering wild leeks in the forest and then a trip to the mall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To illustrate this disconnect.
I see where this is going.
So in the forest, gathering wild leeks, it's slow, it's deliberate.
Yeah.
You have to know where to look, how to identify the plant, how to harvest it sustainably.
You're really connected to the source of your food.
Yeah, but then in the mall, she's surrounded by
stuff?
Yeah, by all this abundance of products.
Yeah.
But there's this complete disconnect from where they came from, how they were made, what the environmental impact was.
It's like this illusion of limitless resources.
Right. But the ecological reality is hidden.
It's like a Potemkin village of an ecosystem.
Wow, I love that phrase.
Kimmerer's so good with words.
So it's like everything seems plentiful, but we don't see the true cost.
Exactly.
And this kind of brings us to another important concept that Kimmerer explores, which is the Wendigo.
Oh, yeah, the Wendigo.
Have you heard of the Wendigo?
Yeah, it's like a creature.
It's a mythical creature.
Right.
In Anishinaabe tradition.
And it represents?
It embodies this insatiable greed and the dangers of consuming without regard for the consequences.
It's a powerful
It's a
sentence.
warning, right?
Yeah.
Against unchecked consumption and the exploitation of resources.
And Kimmerer connects this to our modern environmental crisis.
Yeah, it's like our relentless pursuit of economic growth, our overconsumption of resources.
Our disregard for the balance of nature.
It's like the Wendigo is this metaphor
What?
for the forces that are threatening our planet.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
So is there any hope?
Well, there's a glimmer of hope.
Okay.
Remember the prophecy of the seven fires.
Refresh my memory.
Okay, so the seventh fire prophecy
Mhm.
describes this pivotal moment in history where humanity faces a choice.
Between two paths.
Yeah, one leading to further destruction
Okay.
and the other to renewal.
Like a crossroads.
Yeah, and this is where the idea of braiding sweetgrass becomes really crucial.
Okay, let's unpack that metaphor a bit.
Yeah.
How does braiding sweetgrass symbolize a path forward?
So braiding sweetgrass is about
Right.
intertwining indigenous knowledge, scientific understanding, and personal experience.
Okay.
It's about like weaving together different ways of knowing
Yeah.
to create a more holistic and sustainable relationship with the earth.
And Kimmerer shares her own personal experiences
Okay.
with learning about sweetgrass,
Yeah.
both its cultural significance and the ecological benefits of traditional harvesting practices.
And it's really cool how her research shows that those traditional practices,
Like taking only half the sweetgrass.
yeah, exactly, they actually contribute to the health and resilience of the plant.
So braiding sweetgrass isn't just about respecting nature.
Right.
It's about actively participating in its renewal.
And ensuring its well-being.
It's like we can be active participants
Yeah,
in the healing and restoration of the planet.
exactly. And she goes on to tell this powerful story about attending a ceremony at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School.
That was the school where her grandfather was sent, right?
Yeah, as a child.
Such a painful legacy.
Yeah, forced assimilation, cultural erasure.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. But amidst all that sadness, Kimmerer describes this incredible moment of resilience.
What happened?
She was watching this group of young people playing a traditional Anishinaabe game
What game?
called the Peach Stone game.
The Peach Stone game. I've never heard of that.
So they use these peach stones that are blackened on one side,
Okay.
and you toss them, and the outcome depends on how they land.
Black side up or white side up?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a game of chance, but also a form of divination.
Like reading the patterns of fate.
Yeah, it's like a metaphor for the balance of life, right?
The light and the dark, the good and the bad.
The destruction and creation.
And for Kimmerer, seeing those young people playing that game,
Yeah.
it was a symbol of,
Cultural survival.
yeah, like despite the attempts to erase their heritage, those seeds of knowledge had endured,
Passed down through generations.
yet were being planted anew.
It's powerful, right?
It's a reminder that even in the face of immense loss,
Yeah.
the spirit of indigenous culture and knowledge can persevere.
And it underscores the importance of reclaiming and revitalizing those traditions.
Yeah.
Not just for preservation.
But for the wisdom and insight they offer.
Yeah, for how we can live in a more balanced and sustainable way.
It makes you wonder what other valuable knowledge has been lost or forgotten
I know, right?
in our rush to modernize.
That's a great question to ponder.
Yeah.
What have we lost?
What could we learn
What could we rediscover?
if we just took the time to listen
To the land, to the
to
elders.
such stories?
Yeah, the stories hold so much wisdom. So,
Yeah.
we were talking about braiding sweetgrass and kind of like weaving together these different ways of knowing.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what like resonated with you the most about Kimmerer's personal journey of reconnecting with her Potawatomi heritage.
Honestly, I was really struck by how she doesn't shy away from the pain and loss associated with that journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Like she talks about feeling this deep sense of grief for the stories and traditions that were stolen from her grandfather at Carlisle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's just this stark reminder of the devastating legacy of colonialism
Yeah.
and the ongoing struggle of indigenous peoples to reclaim their cultural identity.
It's not just about celebrating the beauty of indigenous knowledge.
Right.
It's also acknowledging the historical trauma and injustices that have attempted to erase it.
And yet, in the face of this adversity, Kimmerer's work is a testament to the enduring power of that knowledge and the importance of bringing it forward into the present.
Like she reminds us that there are multiple ways of knowing and that we can all learn from each other's perspectives.
I love that.
And a key part of this learning process is developing a deeper understanding of our interconnectedness with the natural world.
Oh, for sure.
Like she uses some really vivid imagery to get this point across.
Oh, are you thinking of the story about her encounter with the Wendigo in the woods?
Yes, that's the one.
That scene is so powerful.
It's intense.
She offers the Wendigo a cup of medicinal tea.
It's like, what? What's going on there?
What do you make of that gesture?
Well, I think it's this like brilliant metaphor for the kind of healing that's needed.
Oh.
Both for ourselves and for the planet.
So by offering the Wendigo tea, Kimmerer's acknowledging the destructive forces that are at play.
The greed, the consumption, the disregard for the well-being of others.
But she's also offering a path towards balance and restoration.
Exactly. It's not about ignoring or demonizing the Wendigo.
Right.
But about recognizing that those destructive forces kind of exist within all of us.
Mm.
And maybe by offering a different way, a path of healing, we can begin to shift the balance.
So it's about recognizing those patterns of greed and consumption that are driving us towards ecological collapse.
But also seeking out alternative ways of being, ways of living in balance and harmony with the natural world.
It makes me think about those principles of the honorable harvest that we were talking about earlier.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not just about taking what we need, but about cultivating a mindset of respect, gratitude, and reciprocity.
And remembering that we're part of a larger community. A web of relationships that extends beyond ourselves.
Kimmerer uses the tradition of the giveaway to kind of highlight this.
No, the giveaway. Can you remind me what that is again?
So in many Indigenous cultures, the giveaway is a ceremony where gifts are freely shared among members of the community.
Oh.
It's this powerful expression of generosity.
Yeah.
And it's a way of acknowledging our interdependence.
I love that. It's a completely different way of thinking about wealth and abundance.
Right. It's not about accumulating possessions.
Yeah.
It's about sharing what we have.
And recognizing that true wealth lies in our relationships with each other and with the natural world.
She describes a specific giveaway where a bowl of berries and a single spoon are passed around the circle.
Wow.
And everyone takes a taste, and they acknowledge the gifts of the earth.
It's beautiful.
They express gratitude for what they've been given.
It's like such a powerful symbol of our interconnectedness.
Yeah, we're all nourished from the same source.
And it makes you think about taking only what you need, recognizing that our resources are finite.
Right, and that we have to learn to share and consume responsibly.
It's such a simple act, but it carries so much meaning.
Yeah, it's about shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance.
From competition to cooperation.
Do you think we could incorporate this idea of the giveaway into our own lives?
Oh, absolutely.
Even in small ways.
Like, think about the times you've shared a meal with friends or family, offered a helping hand to a neighbor.
Yeah.
Those acts of generosity and sharing are expressions of the giveaway spirit.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And that by supporting each other and sharing what we have,
we can create a more just and sustainable world.
It's about remembering that ancient wisdom that has sustained Indigenous peoples for centuries.
And finding ways to weave those teachings into our modern lives.
Kimmerer also shares some really profound insights about the role of stories in shaping our understanding of the world.
Oh yeah, the stories are so important.
What stood out to you about her perspective on stories?
Well, she believes that stories have this power to not only inform us, but to transform us.
Okay.
Like they connect us to the past, illuminate the present, and inspire us to create a better future.
She even says that stories are medicine.
I love that. It's such a powerful metaphor.
Yeah.
Like stories can heal us, guide us, and teach us important lessons about ourselves and our relationship to the world.
Like they can help us remember who we are and where we belong.
And one story that really struck me was the one about the Peachstone game.
Oh, yeah, the Peachstone game.
It's about so much more than just a game.
Right. It seemed like a metaphor for the balance of life.
Yeah, the light and dark, the good and bad, the destruction and creation.
The outcome of the game is uncertain.
Just like life.
And for Kimmerer, seeing those young people playing the Peachstone game at Carlisle, it was this, like, powerful symbol of cultural resilience.
Like, despite all the attempts to erase their heritage,
yeah,
those seeds of knowledge had endured.
It's so inspiring.
It really is.
It's this reminder that even in the face of immense loss, culture and traditions can survive.
It makes you think about the importance of passing those stories and teachings on to future generations.
What other stories from the book resonated with you?
One that really stayed with me was the story about that old growth forest in Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Where that man is like dedicating his life to restoring what was lost.
It highlights the importance of patience and long-term vision.
Yeah, it's a reminder that true sustainability requires this commitment that extends beyond our immediate needs.
And it's about recognizing that intricate web of relationships that make up a healthy ecosystem.
That's a good point.
He faces setbacks along the way.
Oh, yeah. The beavers eating his cedar seedlings, deer grazing on his young trees.
But he learns to adapt, to think like a forest.
To understand the needs
Wow.
of all the different beings involved.
What a beautiful lesson in humility and collaboration.
It's a reminder that we're not in control of nature, but rather a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that by working with nature rather than against it, we can create something truly remarkable.
And speaking of remarkable, Kimmerer shares this really profound experience of simply standing witness to the rain in an old-growth forest.
It sounds so peaceful.
Doesn't it?
Like just imagining myself there under the canopy of the trees listening to the rain.
It's like a meditation on the power of observation.
Yeah.
And the importance of slowing down to appreciate those subtle wonders of the natural world.
I love how she describes the different sounds the rain makes as it falls on the different surfaces.
Yeah, the rat-a-tat-tat on the salal leaves.
The bloink on the maple leaf.
The pop of the falling water from the alder trees.
It's like she's tuning into the symphony of nature.
It's playing all around us all the time.
Yeah, but we don't always take the time to listen.
And she's reminding us that even something as simple as rain is this complex and multifaceted phenomenon.
Essential for life.
It's about shifting our perspective.
From seeing the world as like a collection of objects,
Yeah.
to understanding it as this web of interconnected processes and relationships.
And in those moments, she describes feeling this deep connection to the forest.
Like a desire to feel what the cedars feel and know what they know.
It's like she's trying to merge with the forest.
To understand it on a deeper level.
It reminds me of what she said earlier about becoming indigenous to a place.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about living there. It's about cultivating that deep sense of belonging and reciprocity with the land.
It's about recognizing that we're not separate from nature, but a part of it.
Speaking of being a part of nature, Kimmerer also explores the role of fire in shaping ecosystems.
Oh, yeah. Fire. That's a powerful force.
She tells that story about her father teaching her to build a fire.
Right. It was a lesson in both skill and responsibility.
Because fire has two sides.
One creative and one destructive.
And it's our responsibility to understand and respect both sides of that power.
It's like a metaphor for our own human nature.
Yeah, our capacity for both good and evil, for creation and destruction.
We have a choice in how we wield our power.
Sometimes those choices are more complex than they seem.
Yeah, like clear cutting.
On the surface, it seems like a purely destructive act.
But in some ecosystems, fire is actually a necessary part of the natural cycle of renewal.
Like indigenous peoples have understood this for centuries.
Using controlled burns to manage the land and maintain healthy ecosystems.
So it's not about eliminating fire altogether,
Right.
but about understanding its role and learning to work with it in a responsible way.
It's about finding that balance between respecting the power of nature and recognizing our own responsibility as caretakers of the earth.
And it seems like that balance is often disrupted when we lose touch with our connection to the natural world.
Yeah, like in that story she tells about gathering wild leeks in the forest versus shopping in a mall.
Oh, yeah. It's such a powerful contrast.
In the forest, gathering wild leeks is this slow and deliberate process, a direct and intimate connection with the source of your food.
You have to know where to look, how to identify the plant, how to harvest it sustainably.
But in the mall, you're surrounded by this abundance of products.
Right, but there's a complete disconnect from where they came from or how they were made.
It's like we've created this illusion of limitless resources.
But we rarely stop to consider the true cost of that abundance.
It's a reminder that our choices have consequences, even when those consequences are hidden from view.
It all kind of brings us back to the Wendigo.
That insatiable hunger.
That can consume us if we're not careful.
I think the Wendigo can be seen as this metaphor for our modern consumer culture.
Oh yeah, the insatiable desire for more.
Without regard for the consequences.
And Kimmerer is urging us to challenge that mindset.
To shift our consciousness, to return to the values of reciprocity, respect, and sustainability.
And she offers the giveaway as that powerful antidote to the Wendigo's greed.
It's about remembering that true wealth lies not in what we possess, but in what we share.
The giveaway embodies the spirit of generosity and interdependence.
Those values are essential for creating a more just and sustainable world.
It's a reminder that we're all connected, that we all depend on each other and on the earth for survival.
And that by supporting each other and sharing what we have, we can create a world of abundance for all. It's amazing how Kimmerer just like weaves together those personal stories, scientific observations, and indigenous teachings to create this like tapestry of understanding.
It's not just about the facts.
Right.
It's about the feelings, the connections, the deep sense of wonder and responsibility that she evokes.
Braiding Sweetgrass, it's not just like an intellectual exercise.
Yeah.
It's a call to like reconnect with our hearts.
Yeah.
To reawaken that sense of awe and reverence for the natural world that I think so many of us have lost touch with.
I know I've been thinking about that a lot, like in my own life.
Yeah.
How often I take the gifts of nature for granted.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like I drive my car, I turn on the lights, I eat food from the grocery store, and I don't even stop to think about where it all comes from.
Right. All those things that we just kind of take for granted.
The intricate web of life that sustains me.
It's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of our modern lives and forget that we're part of something much larger than ourselves.
It's easy to forget that we're part of nature.
Kimmerer reminds us that every breath we take, every drop of water we drink, every bite of food we eat, it's a gift from the earth.
It's a gift, and it comes with responsibility, right?
Absolutely.
To care for the earth as it cares for us.
And it's not just about these like grand gestures or sweeping policy changes,
right?
Although those are important too.
Yeah.
It's really about the small, everyday choices we make.
Like what kinds of choices?
How we consume, how we dispose of our waste, how we treat the plants and animals around us.
Yeah, it's about remembering that we're not separate from nature.
Right.
We're part of it.
One of the things that really resonated with me was this whole concept of like becoming indigenous to a place.
Yeah, I love that idea.
It's not just about living in a particular location.
It's about something deeper.
It's about cultivating a deep sense of belonging, reciprocity, and responsibility for the land and its inhabitants.
That sounds really beautiful, but I'm wondering, like, what would that look like in practice?
Yeah.
How can we become indigenous to the places where we live?
Especially if we don't have those ancestral ties to those places. I think it starts with paying attention.
Oh, okay.
Like, just notice the plants and animals around you.
Yeah.
Learn their names, their habits, their roles in the ecosystem.
Like, really get to know them.
Yeah, and learn about the history of the land.
Oh, that's a good idea.
The people who lived there before, the stories they told, the ways they interacted with the natural world.
It's like we can learn so much from the past.
Yeah, it's about opening ourselves up to the wisdom that's all around us.
Yeah.
If we just take the time to listen.
To the land, to the elders, to the stories.
And as we deepen our understanding of a place, we can start to ask ourselves some questions.
What kinds of questions?
Like, what gifts have I received from this land?
Okay.
What can I give back in return? How can I live in a way that honors the interconnectedness of all life?
It's about shifting our mindset from one of extraction and domination
to one of reciprocity and respect.
And that's a journey we can all embark on, right?
Absolutely, no matter our background or where we live.
It's about remembering that we're not just inhabitants of this planet, but participants
in its ongoing story.
And we have the power to choose what kind of story we want to create.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Braiding Sweetgrass, I hope you walk away with a renewed sense of wonder for the natural world. And a commitment to living in a way that honors the gifts we've been given.
I know I will.
Good.
Kimmerer's words, they've really touched my heart and inspired me to think differently about my place in the web of life.
That's wonderful to hear.
And I hope our listeners feel that way too.
Remember, you don't have to be a botanist or an indigenous scholar to appreciate the wisdom in this book.
It's a gift for all of us.
It's a reminder of the beauty, resilience, and interconnectedness of life on Earth.
So braid some sweetgrass into your own life.
Share its fragrance with others.
And let's work together to create a future where all beings can thrive.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
We hope it's inspired you to deepen your own connection with the natural world.
Until next time, may you walk in beauty.